Hello. In today's video, we're going to look into moles and Avogadro's constant. So by the end of this video, you would be able to explain the meaning of the term moles. You will be able to explain what Avogadro's constant is. And also you would be able to calculate the number of moles and the number of particles in a given substance. So first of all, a little bit of background about the term moles. Maths, you've got the word dozen. 1 dozen in maths stands for 12. So if I have 1 dozen pens, that means I've got 12 pens. If I've got 1 dozen roses, I'll still have 12 roses. As long as I've got dozen here, the number here stays the same. Only the entities would change. Similarly, you've got in chemistry, because the atoms are very small or the particles are small, we will not say 1 dozen atoms. The word we then tend to use is mole. So just like you use 1 dozen pens, in chemistry you would use 1 mole atoms, 1 mole molecules, 1 mole electrons, and it's just same way as you use the word dozen. It's exactly the same. The thing to remember is 1 mole is equal to this number. Just like 1 dozen is equal to 12, 1 mole is equal to this big number, and this big number is called Avogadro constant. So when you write this number in the exam, you've got to be careful that it is 10 to the power 23. Remember, this number is the superscript, so you've got to keep it at the top. And this is a very big number indicating how small the particles are. So if I say 1 mole of anything, so as long as if I've got any material here, as long as it is 1 mole, it will contain this many number of whatever entity I've got. So entity means whatever things I'm looking into. So I'm looking into copper atoms. So this will contain that many copper atoms. If I'm looking into carbon dioxide molecules, it will contain that many carbon dioxide molecules. 1 mole of sodium ions will contain this many number of sodium ions. So this number remains the same. Just like 1 dozen eggs are always 12 eggs. Same way, 1 mole of anything is always equal to this big number, which is your Avogadro number. That is 6.022 times 10 to the power 23. So overall, if you have 1 mole of a substance, 1 mole of a substance will contain Avogadro's constant. That is that big number. So if I double that, if I get 2 moles of that, that means I would just multiply that big number by 2. So what I've done here is that 2 is the number of moles, and that big number is my Avogadro's constant. So overall, what we've worked out is the number of particles in 2 moles. So the number of particles in 2 moles is equal to that. So overall, in the calculations, you would be using this formula, which is number of particles is equal to moles of a substance times Avogadro constant. So let's try out some questions. So I've solved this question here. How many atoms are in 2 moles of atoms? We know 1 mole has got that many number of atoms. And in the previous slide, or in the previous bit you just saw, the number of atoms is equal to moles times this big number. So the moles in this question is 2 moles here. So I'll just literally multiply 2 times that big number. So you could put these number in your calculator and solve it, or you could just focus on 2 times 6.022, and then you will get your answer, which you will put in your answer sheet. So just be careful, do not rush this working out. So this would work out as 12.044. in the same way, if you could pause the video and look at the rest of these questions and then come back once you've finished to look at the rest of the video. So you could pause the video now. Okay, so I hope you've had the time to figure out the questions, and just let's look at the answers. And so these are the final answers. It's the same working out. In each of those, you multiplied the Avogadro constant with the number of moles. So now if you've been asked how many moles are there, so we've got to find out moles. Are there in 12.044 times 10 to the power 23 molecules? So you've been given the number of atoms, or in this case, you've been given the number of molecules. So in order to find the number of moles, you would use this particular formula. Number of molecules in this case was 12.044 times 10 to the power 23 divided by that number. And when you solve that number, you would get 2 moles. Same way, pause the video and try out the rest of the questions. And then once you've finished, come back and check the answers. Okay, so I hope you've been able to solve these questions. And now let's look at the working out. So hopefully you've got these answers. Don't hesitate to rely on your calculator to find out these answers, but make sure that you double check that you've got the correct numbers. Okay, so thank you for your time, and I hope you've understood this concept. In the next video, we will look into the formula, that is where we're going to use molecular mass and a relative atomic mass to find out the number of moles of any material, of any substance in a given sample. So thank you for watching this video.